Oh, take a look at the front row right there.
Enoch Skipper, Reno, Sonny Siaki, Alan Funk, Chuck Palumbo, straight out of the that's all out of the power plant, right? And there's
Yes, it is.
Paul Orndorff probably giving a little speech about those guys. Oh, good talent right there.
This is it's Terry Funk, Paul Orndorff, Larry Zbyszko, and Arn Anderson, and they're calling themselves the Old Age Outlaws.
Oh God, for
I
real?
mean, yeah. I don't know if that's really the way you should do it.
Oh, you think? Wow. That's when you said earlier, a lot of people don't even remember this. You could not have said a more true statement. I completely miss the Old Age Outlaws. And why in the hell would those four guys go for it? Is it running joke? I guess.
They're all going to take turns cutting promos here. Zbyszko gets a standing O, and Orndorff, according to Dave Meltzer, his promo was not very good and came off pretty sad because he was a great promo guy, and this was just a miss. And the NWO guys are going to come out, and it's written in the Observer, Nash carved him up like a Thanksgiving turkey. How about Double J out there sporting his Titans jersey?
Frank Wycheck jersey in Buffalo. The old Music City Miracle. Got a lot of miles out of that number 89 through the years. This was the second time I'd worn it. And, yep, they were not happy the day that the first time I wore it, nor the second time. And earlier in the show, you saw some, I think it was Washington and a few of the other Buffalo linemen. But there were some Buffalo Bills in the house this night as well.
It's written in the Observer here. You have all these old guys who really don't look like they even belong in wrestling in 2000. Then you have these guys coming out with a dozen women with enough silicone in them to make a minis tag team match. And who do you think the crowd cheered? Jarrett, wearing a Tennessee Titans jersey, was the only one even trying to get heat. Even though Funk has carried the recent TV, this was one of the saddest performances I've seen of him because he just stood there on the mic. His specialty, playing face, while Nash made him look like an old, out-of-date fool. When Funk strongly said if he and Hart didn't wrestle each other, he'd suspend him without pay, Nash came back not selling it a bit, saying he could use the vacation time and he saved his money. Therefore, Funk was dead. Now, this is a conversation I've had with legends in professional wrestling. I know when I say that, people are going to assume I mean Ric Flair. I know Rick agrees with this, but he's not the person who said this. But it is a well-respected member of the wrestling community. I'm not going to say his name because it'll just stir up controversy. But he has said, and he was the first person who said this to me maybe 10 years ago, and I did a double take. Like, wait, what'd you say? And his statement was, the NWO killed WCW. And I thought, wait, what now? No. The NWO is what made WCW successful. Like, you got it all wrong. And his attitude was, and it's sort of written, if you read between the lines there with what Dave wrote, the NWO made it cool to be a heel. So you neuter the baby face. So the whole dynamic of good guys and bad guys now becomes cool and lame. And I mean, even Meltzer, as he's running through it, Jarrett, wearing a Tennessee Titans jersey, was the only one trying to get heat. And at first, when I heard that the NWO ruined WCW or killed WCW, I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But the more I listen, the more I pay attention, the more I try to understand the thinking of a wrestler. I mean, it's on display right here. Everybody else in this NWO, they're here to be the cool guys. We're the cool heels. We're too cool for school. We listen to Tupac and West Side and all this bullshit. Meanwhile, here you come in Buffalo wearing a Titans jersey and your Bob Vila glasses. You're the only person that everybody's like, hey, they're all pretty cool, but fuck that guy. I want to beat that guy up. Like, you understood the assignment. How often do you, as someone who's seen everything in wrestling for decades, see guys who maybe grew up on this era and they want to be a heel, but they want to be the cool heel? And do you think you're missing it?
Conrad, we could press pause on this episode and start right into a new episode in saying 99.9% of the time, tweeners suck.
Yeah.
It is a death knell, and the simple psychology. Conrad, this is maybe this is staying on topic. I re-signed. We talked about that. When I first came into AEW, I think one of the things that not only surprised me, but in my mind, I just kind of chuckled. I would come through the curtain after the performance, after the match, and lots of different folks were saying, "Damn, Jeff, they hate your ass out there." And I was just like, yeah, isn't that what we're trying to accomplish here? Like, it isn't, to play the antagonist. Don't try to be likable. Don't, the simple 101 of it. And that's, I think that is so missed in today's age. And I think it's society, take it outside of wrestling, the social media age and the Instagram filters and living a lie and the facade and all the BS. And I'll say it, people don't like to get their feelings hurt, or their bad negative comments really offend folks. And we could probably go on and on and on. But as far as wrestling 101, I come from an era that your ass would get fired.
Yeah.
The tweener stuff is not marketable at all. Matter of fact, it is not just, Bull Man would call it a town killer, certainly a match killer, but the 101 of trying to say cool insider remarks and the heel getting a little bit of a cheer here and there because they're clever. The end result of that is a disaster, because not only do you not get over as a talent, your segment doesn't get over. And what you said, you neuter the babyface, that it makes it almost impossible for them to get that emotional connection where the viewer wants to get behind that protagonist and say, go kick his ass. It just neuters all of that, Conrad. It's funny you brought that up today. I guess it's appropriate here at the NWO and you making that comment, but the tweener stuff.
Well, it's a Vince Russoism. Vince Russo is pretty on record, and I don't disagree with this, with saying that the world isn't black and white, it's shades of gray. And I agree with that. I do. And I do think some of my favorite movies that I enjoy the most have nuanced storytelling. Like in the movie or in the series The Sopranos, we all pull for a murderer, gangster, villain who cheats on his wife and abuses drugs and blah blah blah. Like, we're pulling for Tony Soprano, we're pulling for the bad guy, but that is not what draws the most money. Like, if I was to ask you, I know you're not really a movie junkie, Jeff, but what genre, like what niche, if you will, of movies makes the most money, do you think?
Oh, what genre? That's a good, I don't know.
How about Marvel?
Oh,
Does Marvel ring a bell? Like, are there characters that are gray? Sure. But by and large, we know Superman's a good guy. Batman's a good guy. Like, we don't have to wonder, is the Riddler turning babyface? No, he's a fucking heel. The Penguin's a heel. It's clear to see. Now, let's go a step further. What movies make the most money historically? They're G-rated Disney style movies. Do they have shades of gray, or they're very clearly defined good guys and bad guys in Disney movies? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and Conrad, here's my response to all of, and me and Russo, and I'll say many others, I don't want to single him out, but many others, when that whole shades of gray conversation would come up, I would say, hey man, you are absolutely 100% right. You can fill in the blank with Sopranos in movies, all of that. But hey, bud, guess what? This is professional wrestling. You can call it sports entertainment. It's the exact same thing. Vince was clever because he didn't want to use wrestling and blah, 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 blah. But it's all one and the same. But this is professional wrestling. So your shades of gray, I hear you loud and clear. I don't disagree with you. But in professional wrestling, was Hulk Hogan, what were his shades now against Andre the Giant and Stone Cold Steve Austin when they did the switch and Vince came out behind the curtain. It was employee versus employer. I mean, we could go on and on and on in the examples, but you just have to tweak it, but you don't tweak all these different shades of gray. I think that is, I used to say this in creative meetings. I would say, hey guys, that's just being lazy. That is absolutely being lazy. You can write a story and have the antagonist. You don't want redeeming qualities. Can he say something here and there that might be a little bit clever? Yeah. But the end result, you want David versus Goliath or whatever, any kind of silly analogy you want to come up with. Yeah. But the tweener mentality that Kevin and Scott did made a boatload of money.
For them.
Yes. But
and for WCW short term, but boy, it neutered the baby faces.
Over time, it did.
Yeah.
I think they would agree. And in a lot of ways, that NWO, it broadened out to 10 guys. That didn't do any favors either, because then there was a whole faction of tweeners.